Chest infection? Here's what actually helps before you reach for antibiotics. It's 2 in the morning and you're sitting up in bed because lying down makes the coughing worse. By the time you get to the doctor's office the next day, the whole visit takes maybe 8 minutes. No real conversation, just a quick listen with the stethoscope and a signature on a prescription pad. If that's familiar, you're not alone. And there's something important most people never get told during that visit. Most chest infections aren't caused by bacteria at all. Somewhere between 90 and 95% of them, including most cases of bronchitis and a fair number of milder pneumonias, come from a virus. Yet, more than 70% of people who show up with bronchitis symptoms walk out with an antibiotic anyway. And when you treat a viral infection with a drug built to kill bacteria, you're not just wasting the medication. You can genuinely make things worse. Here's why. Roughly 80% of your immune system actually lives in your microbiome, the community of bacteria in your gut and airways that helps regulate how your body responds to threats. Antibiotics don't know the difference between the bacteria making you sick and the bacteria protecting you. They wipe out both. So, you end up with more inflammation, a weaker immune response going forward. And this is the part that worries me most. A higher chance of resistant bacteria building up in your system over time. I see this constantly in practice. Someone comes in with what's clearly a viral chest cold, gets antibiotics anyway, just in case, and ends up feeling worse a week later than they did on day 2. So how do you actually tell the difference? A viral chest infection usually builds gradually, often after a cold that's already been hanging around for a few days. The mucus tends to stay clear or white, fevers are mild if they show up at all, and things generally start easing up on their own somewhere around the 1-week mark. A bacterial infection tends to behave differently. You might start feeling better, then suddenly get worse again, with a fever that spikes back up and mucus that turns thick, yellow, or green. Sharp chest pain, when you breathe in, real shortness of breath, or symptoms that just keep dragging past 10 days without any improvement, those are the signs that deserve an actual medical evaluation, not a home remedy. Sound familiar? If you're nodding along to the viral pattern instead, that's usually your body doing exactly what it's supposed to do. This distinction matters more the older you get, and there's a real biological reason for that. Your immune system doesn't respond the same way at 65 as it did at 35. The response gets slower and a little less precise, something researchers sometimes call immunosenescence. Basically, the natural dulling of immune sharpness that comes with age. That means an unnecessary antibiotic doesn't just disrupt your microbiome temporarily. It takes longer to bounce back from. And if you're already on other medications, the interactions and side effects tend to hit harder too. Anyway, that's exactly why knowing what's actually going on in your lungs, instead of just accepting whatever gets prescribed in an 8-minute visit, makes such a difference at this stage of life. Now, for the viral chest infections, which again is most of them there genuinely isn't much conventional medicine can offer beyond let it run its course. But there are things that can shorten how long you're sick and how bad it feels along the way. And I want to walk through what actually has evidence behind it. NAC, or non-acetylcysteine, is one worth knowing about. It's a precursor to glutathione, one of the body's most powerful natural detoxifiers, and it's shown real promise in reducing both how often lung infections happen and how long they stick around, particularly with chronic bronchitis and COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, the kind of long-term lung damage that makes breathing progressively harder. The fastest way to use it is through a nebulizer, that little machine that turns liquid medicine into a fine mist you can breathe in directly. You dissolve about 1/8 of a teaspoon of NAC powder into 3 to 4 ounces of slightly warmed water, run it through the nebulizer, and breathe it in for about 5 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day. You can also just take it as an oral capsule. It works, just a bit slower. If you have COPD or another existing lung condition, mention this to your doctor before starting, since nebulized treatments should fit with whatever else you're already managing. Black seed oil is one of the oldest remedies on this list. The Egyptians and the Chinese were both using it centuries ago, and modern research has actually caught up to some of what they were onto. It has documented antiviral, antibacterial, and even antifungal properties. And for people with asthma or general respiratory irritation, it tends to make breathing noticeably easier. Take it orally, following whatever dosage is printed on the label of the product you buy. Then there's andrographis, sometimes called the king of bitters. For a reason, it is genuinely unpleasant to taste, but it's shown real ability to shorten how long a lung infection lasts, how intense it feels, and how much coughing and throat irritation come with it. In some research, it performed comparably to common over-the-counter cough medication. South African geranium is another one worth knowing, sometimes labeled pelargonium, and it's been studied specifically for acute bronchitis in both adults and children, with solid evidence for reducing both duration and severity, especially for viral cases, which again is most of what you're dealing with here. Inhaled magnesium is a simpler one. Plain Epsom salt, dissolved about a quarter teaspoon in 3 to 4 ounces of water, run through the same nebulizer a few times a day. Magnesium helps relax the bronchial tubes and loosens mucus, which in practice means your chest clogs up less and coughing gets easier instead of harder. And licorice root, another ancient remedy, is particularly good for a raw, irritated throat and general viral symptoms. Most people take it as a simple oral supplement or in tea form. Vitamin D deserves its own conversation, honestly, because I think it's the most underrated piece of this whole picture. Every immune cell in your body has receptors for it, your lungs especially, and it plays a major role in regulating inflammation and activating the specific immune cells that go after viruses directly. Most adults over 60 run low on vitamin D without realizing it, which leaves them more vulnerable to respiratory infections in the first place. Here's the honest part. Though some of the higher dose vitamin D protocols you'll see floating around online go well beyond what's safe to do on your own, I'm not going to hand you a number to take without your doctor knowing about it. What I'd actually recommend is getting your vitamin D level checked with a simple blood test, and then working with your doctor on a dose that's appropriate for where your levels actually are. Not a guess. If they do recommend a higher therapeutic dose, ask about pairing it with vitamin K2 and magnesium, since vitamin D doesn't work well without magnesium alongside it. A few mistakes I see come up again and again. One is stopping antibiotics partway through once they've actually been prescribed for a confirmed bacterial infection. Even if you're feeling better after a few days, cutting it short lets the toughest bacteria survive and come back stronger. That's not carelessness, it's just an easy trap to fall into when you're finally feeling human again. Another is pushing your doctor for antibiotics because it feels like doing something, when what your body actually needs is support, not a drug fighting the wrong battle. And a genuinely common one, using a nebulizer with the wrong concentration or without checking in with your doctor first. Especially if you already have asthma or COPD, where the wrong approach can aggravate things instead of helping. I used to think any fever needed to come down immediately. I was wrong about that. A mild fever is often your immune system doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, and suppressing it too fast can actually slow you down. I rarely see someone with a genuinely viral chest cold who actually needed that antibiotic in the end. Almost never. Before you go, here's the short version. Most chest infections are viral, antibiotics won't help, and can genuinely hurt, and there's real evidence behind a handful of natural options. NAC, black seed oil, andrographis, geranium, inhaled magnesium, licorice root, and vitamin D done the right way with your doctor involved. Everything in this video is for educational purposes only. Always consult your doctor or healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine, especially before starting a nebulizer regimen or a new supplement. If this was helpful, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment with your question, and subscribe if you want more like this.